To go over and shake his hand.
He's become more famous than me.
And it's a long walk across that room. And what he told me was that it was bad enough that he was there. It was bad enough that there was going to be a handshake, but, there really wasn't going to be a hug. And so if you watch the video, he extends his hand, and Comey's arms are really long, and he extends his hand kind of preemptively, and Trump grabs the hand and kind of pulls him into a hug. But the hug is entirely one-sided, so one guy in the hug is shaking hands, and the other guy is hugging. And Comey was just completely disgusted by the episode.
The showdown between the President of the United States and the FBI director he fired to take pressure off of the Russians is about to happen in full public view, and we'll talk about it next.
Disgusted by the episode. He thought it was an intentional attempt to compromise him in public in a way that would sow and emphasize concerns that half of the electorate had about him and the Bureau.
As FBI Director James Comey reportedly had several unsettling episodes with President Trump, who we now know was thinking about the Russia investigation when he fired Comey, and who bragged about it afterwards to Russian officials in the Oval Office. On one occasion, according to the New York Times, when the president called Comey and asked him when federal authorities were going to put out word that Mr. Trump was not personally under investigation, Mr. Comey told the president he should not contact him directly, but instead follow the proper procedures and have the White House counsel send in any inquiries to the Justice Department. There were reportedly several other interludes between the president and Comey before he was fired. Tonight, we learned Comey will have a chance to give his full version of events in public testimony to the Senate in the next few weeks. Joining me now, MSNBC contributor Naveed Jamali, former FBI double agent, Chris Liu, former assistant to President Obama, former Deputy Secretary of Labor. Chris, let me start with you as someone who worked in the White House for a while. How forthcoming do you anticipate Comey's testimony to be when he finally goes before the Senate committee?
Well, thank you, Chris, for having me on. I think he'll be very forthcoming, and I think he'll be forthcoming about what the procedures are for contacting the FBI, working through White House counsel's office, working through the Department of Justice. I spent 4 years in the Obama White House, and what we have seen over the last couple of weeks in terms of contacts is unprecedented. We were warned up and down about not having contact with agency officials about investigations, whether it was the FBI, ICE, EPA, any enforcement action. We should not have any contact. And the fact that you have this amount of contacts between the president and the FBI director is really shocking.
And not just the president, Chris, you have Reince Priebus, we know also, talking to him. I mean, just to be clear, you're saying that in the White House, you and your colleagues and the president did not and would not have called the FBI director or other agents for updates or to ask them to come out with a statement?
Absolutely not. You had Bob Bauer on. Bob Bauer would have dragged me to the White House chief of staff and had me fired if I had done anything like that. And what is also amazing is if you just go back and look at the history of Watergate, Richard Nixon went to Haldeman, to the CIA, to the FBI to stop that investigation. Donald Trump cuts out the middleman and goes straight to the FBI director. It's shocking.
Naveed, what's your reaction to the sort of stories emerging about the way that Comey was trying to sort of negotiate this relationship?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. There's been a lot of sort of buzz about why didn't Comey resign? Why didn't he bring this up the minute this happened? And I think that people should understand that, as Chris is sort of pointing out here, that the level that perhaps this conversation took place didn't rise to some sort of criminality. And I think that, it was probably the right thing to do to sort of sit on this. But, I sort of feel like in the military with this term, command undue influence. That when there's an investigation in the UCMJ, a commander, cannot exert his or her influence to sort of shape the direction of the investigation. And to just use that construct here, it certainly seems that there was, whether by design or not, that there was an attempt here to sort of steer things in a particular direction. And that's, boy, if you're the commander-in-chief, that's just you just can't do that.
Well, and Chris, respond to this. I mean, look, the point that Benjamin Wittes was making there, right, that the grasp there was to try to reaffirm the distrust that half of the electorate had for Comey because of the Comey letter and the Clinton campaign, and pretty robust empirical evidence that had extremely powerful effect on the election, helped get Donald Trump elected. I mean, what do you say to people who say, look, this guy is a grandstander, and he is a sort of deft Machiavellian Washington figure who's playing his way through this, and now he's going to get another chance at the committee, but all the liberals who suddenly love him are forgetting all their characterological reservations about the man.
You know, Chris, look, I don't know Jim Comey, but what we have seen over the last 110 days or so from this White House is a complete disrespect for the rule of law. And that starts with the way they've treated ethics, with conflicts of interest. This is not a president or White House that just accidentally had these contacts because they hadn't got the right level of training. They consciously went into these contacts with an intention to send a message to the FBI director, and that's improper.
Naveed, with the news tonight that there's someone in the White House right now who is a person of interest in the investigation, I mean, just talk me through what it would be like to be in the FBI right now working on that investigation with someone who's close to the president as someone you're investigating.
Well, look, I think the first question they're probably looking at is how far back do we actually have to go? I think it's not right to think that this started in 2017. The Russian involvement started in 2017. We know, for example, General Flynn with RT. Right. So I think on the FBI, they're trying to figure out how far back do we have to go. Do we want to look at other cases? I mean, there's this interesting case with this Russian bank and Jared Kushner and his failure to disclose that connection on his security forms. You know, so it's a pretty wide net, and I think that the FBI is probably going to go back a lot farther than 2017.
So you think they're looking? I mean, the reporting about they're now looking at financial crimes. I mean, your point is that the portfolio of what investigators can look at is you think that the signals are being sent in the reporting is fairly broad.
Yes, I think that, you know, when it comes to this, if there was collusion, or which I tend to not think is the case, but if there was this nexus, it probably didn't occur just in 2017. So, the question of obstruction is one thing, but when we go back to the counterintelligence side, these are things that take years, operations take years. So I think they're probably going to go back quite a few years.
All right, Naveed Jamali and Chris Liu, thank you both.
Thank you.